You have to excuse me a bit of a sore throat, but welcome back to another video from Matthew Mackenzie. Care in mind, I've set this channel almost 2 years now, 2-3 years, and this one is, as I think I mentioned before, it's a collaboration regarding anxiety awareness. I've decided to collaborate with someone of lived experience. Basically, it's someone who has gone through and is still going through mental illness situation. Her name's KatieKat of her YouTube channel, and she usually does quite a lot of videos on dealing with depression because she's gone through a lot of those symptoms. I think one of the things that's triggered that is that she is dealing with, I think it's CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. So if you want to check a bit more about information about dealing with depression and CRPS, please check out her video channel. I'll put her link off this video. But this video basically is about dealing with anxiety, and at least perhaps understanding it, I would say. She'll do her part on basically how she experienced anxiety. I don't really often had to deal with anxiety much myself. Alright, while caring, there has been quite a few situations where I've been really anxious, and I'll go into that in another video. But what we'll do is we'll listen to KatieKat describe how she experienced anxiety, and then I'll continue to explain how anxiety is from my end, basically.
Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I just wanted to do a quick short video on anxiety and what it's like for me, and I'm just going to dive right on into it. For me, anxiety, like I used to be like a very social, outgoing kind of person. Not that I didn't have like any cares or worries or anything, but I used to just kind of be like outgoing and social and like normal and all of that. And now, dealing with health problems and depression and everything, anxiety, what it means to me and what it is for me is feeling sometimes kind of not really socially awkward, but kind of like awkward out in public around people. It's just kind of like having sometimes social awkwardness, not really like being around other people as much. Being in big crowds is hard for me sometimes. It just kind of gives me like a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, things like that. And it's very overwhelming. There have been times where I go out into public and I've had to excuse myself from social situations and like go to the bathroom and actually cry just because it gets so overwhelming for me. And it's a very tough thing to deal with if you don't really understand anxiety or have gone through it or have it. It's hard for others.
Well, as you can tell, KatieKat did provide quite detailed information of what it's like to experience anxiety in the situations that spur anxiety on. I'm going to add just a bit more to that on what sort of symptoms you would experience. Not all of them. You might experience one or two. I doubt you probably experienced all of them in one go. That would be quite intense, let's say. But anxiety, basically, if you have suffered with anxiety or begin to have anxiety, you might start let's say if you're in a stressful situation, and stress is actually one of the things that can actually spur on anxiety. You begin to sweat. Some people sweat a lot more when they become anxious. They're called palpitations, and your heart beats a lot faster. You sweat more. You can experience a lot of shaking, a lot of trembling, which can be visual. One thing that is to know regarding some mental health symptoms is they can show physical presence. They can be observed in chronic situations. Not all, but that's one thing to note. Some people seem to think that mental health is usually just all in the mind. It can demonstrate itself quite physically if it can affect the body physically. Shortness of breath, heavy breathing is another form of suffering anxious feelings. You could put this down to perhaps what someone would experience during a rapid flight or fight situation. They might be stuck in the headlights, but not all situations pressure the person who's suffering anxious feelings in this way. Other symptoms, I suppose, would be shortness of breath, or even a lot faster. You could experience choking or a sensation of choking. You could also feel tightness of your chest pains. That's difficult even sometimes moving because of the tightness, which explains why some people will, really anxious would perhaps completely stand still. And also there's a few others. I think the last one I could mention is that deep pain in the stomach, gastrointestinal problems, and feeling very nauseous. So those are some of the symptoms that, not all of them, there's plenty more, but if you're suffering from anxiety, or experiencing anxiety, I'm sure you've experienced some that I've mentioned here. So what I'm going to do is pass on to KatieKat to let her explain a bit more about her experiences, because I always feel it's very important to hear those who have lived or are living through a mental illness, and let them explain their situation. That's perhaps one of the best ways.
It's hard for others to understand what it's like to have it. A lot of people, I've been told, it'll pass, or things will get better, or whatever. And for me, it just feels like if you don't have it or don't understand what it is, then, it's like you don't know that you can't just not be that way, or to just stop, or whatever. It's a very hard thing to get through sometimes, depending on how bad it hits you. Anxiety for me is something that sometimes will keep me from spending time maybe with a friend, or just makes me really feel anxious. Like if I was to go see my sister-in-law or one of my best friends, spending a day with them or a few hours or something, it's just, for me, it is so incredibly stressful. I feel like, oh my God, I'm going to have a flare-up, or it makes me question a lot of things, and it's just really hard to go through, and it does take a toll on you mentally, at least it does for me, and it's stressful, and it's something that I do work with. I am better than I was, say, like a year ago or 2 years ago, and it's something that's like a work in progress, I guess you could call it. It's just something that I have to work through every day, and I am getting better about it. It's just, something that I still have to deal with now.
So okay, that was it was brilliant really from her situation. I have to admire her in coping through a lot of the difficult problems regarding anxiety. But on my part, I want to sort of now shed some insight on the types of anxiety, and there's actually quite a few. I'm not going to mention them all. It'd be too, I think it'd be too exhaustive. What sort of feelings or symptoms, or not symptoms, but types that would cause the symptoms that I explained before? That being feeling nauseous, shortness of breath, palpitations, sweating, the shaking and trembling. And the first one that I could pick up off the top of my head would be perhaps phobias. Very, very common. Not always really chronic. Some people can be scared of minor things, while others, it really disrupt their day-to-day routine. And it can usually, unfortunately, can form into a disorder, where it can be really intense. Fear and panic will set in, and this will lead to what I've explained before. Some of the symptoms being the anxiety. A very common one is being in a social setting where you're around lots of people, or you're having to perform in front of lots of people, or you're put in a situation where you feel that you're overwhelmed. Stress will trigger the anxiety. Anxiety will trigger the symptoms. Another one, I suppose, panic disorder, I suppose, which is, I suppose, when you have a panic attack, where you now realise, unfortunately, you're in this situation and you don't know what to do. And again, it leads back to the symptoms that I've explained before. And these panic attacks can really be disabling. Can last, almost 10 minutes. Up until 20, 30. Obviously, those going through that situation would definitely need a lot of support, and they should be seeking that support. Again, see a psychiatrist, psychologist, your doctor. Neither me or KatieKat can tell you the best professional advice. Always see someone who's trained. But what we're doing is we're trying to raise awareness. Another one, PTSD, that stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. Mentioned the keyword here is also stress. You can also bring on those symptoms I've explained before. Again, it's another form of an anxiety type illness. And notice it's got the post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people experiencing intense situation, which leads to memories being brought up where something will trigger it, which is very important. There's another YouTuber which I would like you to actually check out, because she does suffer from it, and she mentions that a lot in her videos, and it would be worth checking out her video. Her YouTube name is Just Katie, and she does explain a lot about it. And I suppose a good way of how she explains in her ones is if you experience a severe traumatic incident, right, and that incident is gone, but you'd see something that would trigger that memory to flood back, leading an idea or feeling that can, and I'm not the best in explaining, I'm trying to explain the best I can, that could cause these intense feelings to flood back. You could have been attacked in the street, and then next couple of months you walk past the same street and these things will flood back, and then you experience the stiffness, the tightness in your chest, sweating, heavy breathing, things like that. Another one, OCD, that has also can be closely fairly related to anxiety, unfortunately. OCD, basically is obsessive compulsive disorder, and that can lead you to be anxious about something where at least ideas, perhaps even rituals, where you're trying to control something which in some form you have no control over, in a way that you're repeating. A good example is being a phobia of germs. I mentioned that I did speak about phobias before. So you're continually washing your hands because you feel anxious about that, and it's actually affecting your routine. A good example is, and this can happen to quite, it's a lot more common than you think. People who are anxious about leaving whether they've locked a door before they've left home, or if they've forgotten the keys, the keys are on them and keep going back, or if they've forgotten a particular phone, things like that. But at a severe level, you'll have someone who's waiting 10-20 minutes, they can't get out of the house because they have difficulty leaving, because they're not only they're anxious about something, it's led to a compulsion. They keep performing this ritual, they keep performing repeated patterns in order to try and control something. I think that one of the most chronic ones would be GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, where you actually is now really chronic, where you need a lot of support, because this type of anxiety can spread on for at least for months. And of course, I'm not a clinician, and I'm certainly not a psychiatrist, psychologist, so I'd always advise you to check this out, and go check it out on Google, speak to a professional. All we're doing, both me and KatieKat, is raising awareness. So I'd like you to just check out the last part of what Katie's got to say, and then I'll finish up.
So yeah, that is kind of a little bit on my story about anxiety, and I hope that maybe somebody out there found this informative or helpful or anything. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave a comment and give this video a like, and go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Well, I hope this video doesn't run on too long, and I've explained to my best of my ability about anxiety. A little short insight. When I mentioned that sometimes I've gone through anxious periods myself, just remember that I'm caring for someone who's lived experience, and there's situations where I feel they're in danger, and I'm waiting for help in some sense, and it's led to anxiety within me because I feel that I've got no control of the situation. But I'll explain that in another video, in a future video. My next one, which I think should definitely take note, it's going to be quite long unfortunately, but there's no way that I could shorten it, and this will be it's really complex. I've been researching into mental health systems around the world, so it's worth a watch when I finish this off, because I've been compiling this for some time now, and been meaning to do this. It's taken me weeks, and I'll be covering the mental health systems of obviously the UK, this is where I'm from, America, France, Germany, Thailand, South Korea, Russia. What are the challenges of those countries regarding mental health? And I'll be probably explaining the videos, perhaps briefly, 2 minutes on each country, 1 to 2 minutes, about their mental health systems, the number of mental health professionals in that country, how much they spend the budget on, the most common symptoms, the ranking regarding suicide, because suicide in some sense is not always related to mental health, but those suffering mental health problems can feel suicidal, and I'm sure quite a lot of the suicides have been spurred on by mental health problems, but that's for another video. So I wish to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video, and I hope that you've learned a bit more about anxiety. It's not exhaustive, you know, very, very, very basic. I'd like to thank KatieKat for her part. I've forgotten to tell her it's a collaboration, so she's probably forgotten to mention it. But if you want to know a bit more about depression, a bit more about complex regional pain syndrome, and you know, her life story regarding mental health, mental illness, please check out her channel. And if you like what you've seen, also subscribe to mine. Thanks for visiting, and I'll catch you again soon. Take care.